welcome to Triple Zeros. I'm your host, Josh Buckhalter. Follow me on Twitter at JoshGBuck. Hit up the Facebook page, Clocker Sports. The website is clockersports.com. The email address is clockersports@gmail.com. Big news in the NFL tonight. Broke late on Thursday. Le'Veon Bell, formerly of the Pittsburgh Steelers and most recently of the New York Jets, signs with the Super Bowl favorite Kansas City Chiefs. And if they weren't the favorite before, they definitely have to be now. Bell, if you remember, got his wish and became a free agent, signed with the Jets for a 4-year contract. Only 2 years into that contract, it did guarantee him $27 million. So he walks away with some hefty change in his pocket. He's only signing a 1-year deal with the Chiefs that you can imagine is going to be close to the minimum because, I mean, it's not about the money, it's about a ring. And so, first thing I have to say about this, my first reaction is the universe really does not care about my fantasy football team, and it hurts. I have a couple of shares of the rookie Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and of course, I just think that this is going to be a situation where Lev is going to take some time to get back, and he can't play this weekend, Bell, that is. He has to take 5 days for the COVID protocols, but he will definitely be in uniform and playing, I believe, next week against, I forget who they play against next week, but he'll be playing, in my estimation, in no time soon as a starter. I don't think this is going to be a situation where you see them split too many. Now, they could have some kind of a timeshare, and like I said, I think Helaire's been pretty good, but Le'Veon Bell is a better bag. And I know we're going to try to judge him off what we saw with the Jets, but to put it as simply as possible, that was the Jets. This is an entirely different monster right now that he's walking into, and I can't imagine the type of motivation that he has to be feeling to prove a lot of the doubters wrong after a lot of the stuff that he's gone through the past couple of years, with a lot of talking that he's done, and, you know, I guess there's no other way to describe it but a subpar performance more often than not. So on the season, he's only got 19 carries, 74 yards. If you remember, he had that hamstring injury that he tweeted out that he wasn't hurt. And, you know, it bears mentioning that the Jets never, Adam Gase, head coach of the Jets, never really wanted Bell. They signed him before he got there. They've been trying to move him since last year, so they ended up cutting him. Just a whole bunch of mess, and it's always been an issue for Gase, and now for Bell. The issue is his usage, so that's what made there be friction there. But it's a Gase issue, and really it's a Jets issue. But we've seen this franchise run afoul of a few stars, most recently Jamal Adams. So now you have this. It's just not, you know, when Adams actually got traded, Bell was tweeting out some kind of sad, emotional things. Not really emotional. I'm exaggerating, but he definitely had negative reaction to it, and so this was kind of just inevitable. The writing had been on the wall there. Edwards-Helaire, 81 carries, 344 yards, and only 1 touchdown. Maybe that has something to do with it. 3.9 yards per carry for Bell, 4.2 for Edwards-Helaire. And maybe there is where you're trying to see something, because I would imagine that the Chiefs line is maybe a little bit better than the Jets, just slightly, you know, just like a wide margin. So they probably envision that if Bell's doing that with what they have going on there with the Jets, and I mean horrible offense and all that kind of stuff, there's a good chance he could produce way better in their system. 3 for 39 receiving, Bell, 169 for Edwards-Helaire. I like the rookie, man. He's been playing well, but I would have to imagine this is something to do with some kind of pass protection issue or something like that. Many people are just saying that it's quite simply a matter of wanting to keep both backs fresh. Reed, in prior years with the Chiefs, has had 2 backs that he could use. I don't know. I don't know. I kind of feel like this is a situation. I mean, they drafted him in the first round, so maybe he doesn't overtake him, and maybe they just use Bell as the rotational piece, kind of like I saw it mentioned the Browns are doing with Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb. But I honestly just don't see Bell not overtaking. He's that talented to me. And in this situation, he can be such a deadly weapon receiving, the size of the target. Now, there is a good chance you get both of these guys on the field at the same time, especially now with Sammy Watkins down for a few weeks with the hamstring injury. So maybe there's Edwards-Helaire's path to relevance for now. But we had seen his carries kind of dwindling on the past few weeks. He only had 10 last week, but he had stayed active through the air. So we know this offense gets a ton of plays off. They score a ton of points. There's going to be usage there for both. I'm very curious to see as a fantasy owner, but more as a fan, just how this is gonna play out. Because again, I was impressed with the rookie, and so it's only a 1-year deal. But this is this has to push the Chiefs over the top, man. I mean, they are just getting you 8 different ways on Sundays. It's crazy. Not even fair. It's not even fair. Can't wait for Le'Veon Bell's song about the Chiefs, about KC Barbecue or something like that. Patrick Mahomes has to be excited about this. Yeah, again, if they weren't already the favorite, if they weren't already your favorite, they have to be now, because this is, oof. And again, I just expect Le'Veon Bell to be, I don't know if he's going to be his all-pro self, you know, the guy who was the best back in football for a while there, but I think he can get pretty damn close. I think there's going to be we're going to be seeing multiple shades, multiple sightings. We're going to have multiple sightings of that version of Le'Veon Bell, especially in high leverage situations when they need it most. I can't wait to see him in catching those passes in space and that patient running behind the line. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be exciting. He was choosing between the 3 teams, the Bills and the Dolphins, and obviously the Chiefs. Ended up signing with the Chiefs for a multitude of reasons, but nonetheless, or not the least of which, has to be the fact that the Jets will be coming to Arrowhead in Week 8. So just 2 weeks away. He won't play again. He won't play this week for the Chiefs, but he will be playing, I assume, in Week 7, and then Week 8 he'll be all primed up. And by then, listen, he might put on a show within. That might be where the takeover happens. I'm just saying. It's a good chance that they give him an opportunity to show out, and if he shows out well enough, look, dude, Le'Veon Bell is just different. He's just a different kind of dude, and if he still has it, and I think he does, Edwards-Helaire is going to be, I don't want to say he's going to be on the pine, but he's definitely going to see his workload cut dramatically. And again, for the Chiefs, that's great. For Edwards-Helaire and his career, that's long term, that's great. For me, my fantasy football team, not so great. And for those rookie of the year wagers that people laid out for him, ouch, that hurts too. But who could have foresaw something like this happen? That's insane. And elsewhere, you have Cam Newton and Drew Lock returning in time for their match. In this case, COVID rescheduling actually helped them. They had more time to get off their respective injury list. Now, Cam actually was on the COVID list, but Lock was coming back from the actual injury, and no better time than now. I actually like the team. They lost Cortland Sutton, though, so we'll see how that adjusts, but I think Lock has enough there to, I don't know about them making some noise. That's a tough division right now, especially with the Raiders playing how they're playing. We'll talk about them in a second, but yeah, they're back for their matchup this week. They play against each other. They had it rescheduled from last week to this week, and it's going to be a good one. I think it's going to be a defensive showdown with a lot of running. And who's doing it for the Patriots? Probably going to be Cam. Broncos, Melvin Gordon has the DUI, but he was practicing. We'll see what ends up happening with that. That's a weird situation. I would imagine that there's going to be some. I don't see him playing. I got to check out more of that. But the last I saw, he was practicing with the team on Thursday. So keep your eyes peeled on that if you got any vested interest in that. But yeah, it's good to see them both coming back and healthy and getting back to it. Other COVID-related news, the Falcons had to close their facilities. They are reopening on Friday, so by the time this podcast drops, they will have reopened, but they did have to close. They had an assistant test positive, and they weren't the only team that had some coaching or some staff test positive. The Bears O-line coach Juan Castillo actually won't be with the team this weekend after coming in contact with somebody who has COVID separately while he was away from the team. He self-reported and won't be joining the team through this Sunday, so that's going to be tricky because the Bears are breaking in a new starting offensive lineman with James Daniels going on IR with a torn pectoral muscle. Alex Bars will be stepping into his position. So no coach with a new guy. Ooh, this is a bad time. And against a team that has something to prove. I actually wrote about this for Last Word on Pro Football. The Bears are kind of on this redemption tour type of thing this year, where every team that they've been facing has kind of had something that a common thread, right? We saw the Lions, obviously, the division. I think in week 2 against the Giants, we saw the Bears have played the Giants the past couple years. Week 3, you saw the Colts, and we saw what Phillip Rivers and him reconnecting with Frank Reich and Matt Nagy and Chris Ballard coming, who was in the running for the Bears GM job. Tampa Bay, the Bears were a finalist for Tom Brady services. They were going to hire Bruce Arians and all that jazz. And then you go now to the Buccaneers, and I think I'm missing somebody in there. But then you go to the Buccaneers, now you go to the Panthers and Teddy Bridgewater. This was a guy that I was stumping for to be the quarterback of the Chicago Bears, but they decided to go another direction. Honestly, what happened, they offered him a deal, but they wanted him to compete with Mitchell Trubisky for a job. Well, he took $63 million to go start in Carolina. Can't say that I blame him. Well, I would imagine that he wants to come back and prove something to a team that wanted him to compete with a guy that they have since benched. Well, they got the weapons to do so. I'm not really so much worried about receivers Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore as much as I am running back Mike Davis, who's also a former Bear that they went out and spent money on, but then decided not to give the ball to. It was really weird when Mike Davis was here. But this is a two-pronged kind of revenge thing that could really come back to hurt him, and I just don't want to see that. But they've been facing the challenges pretty well so far, other than the Colts game. We'll see if they can keep it up. A lot of people are doubting them and saying that they're not as good as their record. I find that funny because I thought one of the most prolific quotes in recent sports history is, "You are what your record says you are." So if they're 4-1, no matter how flawed you think they are, they're still a 4-1 team. That's nothing to sneeze at. They're going to probably make the playoffs. That's nothing to sneeze at. There can still be the most epic of collapses, but barring that, they're going to make the playoffs. So I'm not going to sit here and act like they can't beat the Panthers, but they definitely want to get this one. They still got to play the Saints. It doesn't get. Listen, they got a tough stretch here. They still have to play Green Bay twice, Minnesota twice, even though Minnesota's in a down stretch, and we'll talk about that in a second. But yeah. So all that off of talking about Juan Castillo and his positive COVID diagnosis, or contacting somebody who is positive with COVID. Making the rounds around the league, we are early on. We just had but we had Bill O'Brien for the Texans fired, and it got me thinking. And we talked about this a little bit on the last episode about coaches that are on the hot seat. And so I went back and looked at some records, and these are the guys that I think have got to be on the way to go. I'm not alone in this. These are commonly known. Adam Gase, 7-14 with the Jets, 30-39 in his coaching career over 5 years. Not great. Not only that, but like I just talked about with Le'Veon Bell and Jamal Adams, this guy has a tendency to alienate himself from his top players. We saw something similar, I believe, in Miami, but we see it now with the Jets. And clearly, judging by his record that I just told you, he wasn't great with the Jets, with the Dolphins either. I'm not sure exactly how he got the job with the Jets right away, other than to say it's the Jets. And much like the Bears, they are a major market team that is run very, very mid to small market like. Odd. I don't fully understand it, but it's definitely something that I've noticed. Another coach, Matt Patricia, 10-25 in his 3 seasons with the Detroit Lions. And what makes it worse about Patricia is that he talks like a dude who's making the playoffs on a yearly basis, right? He's critiquing people for not being punctual and then not being punctual himself. He's short and curt with everybody when he talks. Yes, that's right. I said curt. Word of the day. And that's funny because it's a different approach, but kind of what you see in every Belichick disciple. They try to bring the Patriot way with them. He's trying to bring it all the way down to the surliness with the media, and it's just not working. 10-25. He had the nerve to make comments about how he had a lot of work to do when he got here, but they won, I believe, 9 games the year before he got the job. So, don't know what the hell he's talking about. It doesn't look like he might be long for this position either, though. Despite the fact that he's dealt with some injuries this year, I just don't know. That record's not good, and it's gotten progressively worse. 6 wins his first year, 3 wins the next year, and then currently 1 so far in 2020. Mike Zimmer staying in the NFC North. Now, Zimmer actually has a pretty good record, 58-42. But the problem here is they alternate good and bad years. And unfortunately, this is a bad year. And if you don't believe me, go ahead and look it up. Starting in 2014, 8-8 season, 7-9, whatever, 8-7-1. Rotated in between their double-digit win seasons. Last year, they won double-digit games, and the year before, they did not. This year is one of the down years. So, unfortunately, I think this is going to be, and we've seen it already, the Vikings have been bad. Now, granted, there are some logical explanations as to why this time, revamping your secondary, trading your best wide receiver, injury to your running back now could probably cost you some games, but the holes in the defense, players opting out for COVID concerns, all these things played a part, but if you're rotating them anyway, how much of a part did it really play? There's a good chance you were going to do this anyway because you've been doing it the past few years, right? That's the logic of front office executive could use. Now, Zimmer, by all accounts, is a good coach and liked, but I can't imagine that despite how much of this might be on Kirk Cousins, there's some type of feelings that maybe Zimmer is to blame too. He's not the guy to get them over the hump. Like I said, he's alternated good and bad years, and this happens to be a bad year. So we'll see what happens there. And then last one, Doug Marrone of the Jacksonville Jaguars, 23-32 with the Jaguars, 38-49 in his career. That's a wayward franchise, so maybe he doesn't get fired because they're nowhere close. And I forgot about Dan Quinn just getting fired with the Atlanta Falcons. Raheem Morris taking over for him. Doug Marrone, though, down in Jacksonville is a guy, again, that's a franchise that doesn't seem to really have much of a rudder, so maybe he can survive on that alone. But I can't imagine that there's much more leash there simply because they just haven't won anything. They got to the conference championship and then just fell off, but then proceeded to tear the roster apart to where you really can't compete like that. So maybe that buys him time too. But yeah, these four coaches, man, are guys that I would probably look for to be on the way out if this season continues the way that it has or how it's been going for them. If the trends that they've set out keep up. Sticking in the movement of personnel area, I guess, but moving over to the player side, talking about trades, ideas, and some proposals or some things that I saw floated around. And not all trades. There's a free agency decision, but that's a future one we'll talk about last here. Starting off, though, A.J. Green. He has not connected with rookie quarterback Joe Burrow so far, has dealt with injuries. Of course, that's A.J. Green. But perhaps a fresh start could go a long way in getting him to get right. And what better place than to go to the Patriots? You go there, you give Cam Newton another legitimate weapon on the outside. I tend to believe that players who are injured on crappy teams are a lot healthier on better teams. That could just totally be a fluke, and I could be way off base, and maybe the numbers will prove so. But I am of the school of thought that being on a better team just naturally makes you. Isn't it crazy? You just want to go out there and try. Matter of fact, you might not be healthier, but you fight through the little nicks and cuts. I believe we all saw that video of Green kind of pulling up on the interception. First of all, he didn't jump for the pass because he didn't want to get lit up. Then on the run back, the return of the interception, he held up and basically became a lead blocker for the returning defender. So, put him on a winning team in a winning situation, and maybe all that kind of stuff changes. Just saying. Julio Jones, and now this one I'm kind of torn because I had initially have him down for Baltimore, but then I thought about it. What about sending him out west to the Raiders? Baltimore runs a little bit heavier. Now they could use him. Don't get me wrong, but I'm not sure that I like it more than I like him going to the Raiders on a team that doesn't have any legitimate wide receivers and could certainly use that kind of target to pair with Darren Waller and that running game that they have in Josh Jacobs. Derek Carr is one of the most accurate passers. I believe he leads the league right now in passer rating or in completion percentage, excuse me. And him throwing to Julio would just be insane. Falcons are just killing it this year. That is total sarcasm. They're crap. And it's not going to get much better. I can see them trying to keep him. I don't know what I haven't looked. I should have said this at the top of this whole spiel here, but I have not worked out any of these financials. I am literally just talking about things that I would like to see. So don't kill me if I'm throwing out something that just is not feasible. Have not completely looked into it yet, but I think these could work. I'm sure that we could find a way. Finding money in the NFL is typically not the problem. The problem is typically wanting to get something done. So I think if we can manage to make that happen, then things will work out for him in the long run. So that being said, that's why we just spew these kind of things out here. Now, back to it. The next one that I want to see, and this is actually one that I saw floated out there, so I'm not going to claim credit for it, but Sam Darnold to the Indianapolis Colts. This, I would assume, is contingent upon the Jets continuing to slide and ending up outside of the ending up with the top pick and having Trevor Lawrence sitting there right there in there waiting to be drafted. Now, if that's the case, then certainly I could see them making the move and trading him. I don't know how else that happens. Now, that would lead me to believe that it's an off-season thing more than it is anything else. That being said, I wouldn't mind it. I am confused, though, because I like Jacob Eason. I thought that the Colts did too, but people are so ready to pass off on him That apparently I missed the boat on everybody deciding that he just wasn't good anymore. Already he wasn't good. The other interesting part about the Colts situation, though, is that Phillip Rivers hasn't been good. And he was good against the Bears because, obviously, I cared. But he hasn't been good otherwise, and it really kind of came apart against the Browns, where the Browns just laid it on the Colts in a game that cost me my whole ticket last week. We won't talk about that, though. So just keep an eye on it. Something to look for in the offseason, but it surprises me to think that they would go for Darnold, because if they're going to be bad enough that they have to move with Rivers, then they could probably just take a quarterback. There's going to be a couple in this draft. I don't know why they would go on for Darnold, but they have the line to protect him. I don't know. I can see it too. You know what I mean? It's one of those ones I can see going either way. And then the last one is a free agent move that I, again, have no inkling, but I definitely could see it. And I know Vegas has kind of floated the idea out there that with the cap reduction going on and how their contracts have been set up, how their bank accounts set up down there in Dallas, that there's a possibility, please hear that word, possibility, that Dak Prescott could wind up with the Chicago Bears in 2021. And to that I say, please. Dak is recovering from a compound fracture of the ankle. Tweeted out that he's out of surgery and on his way to recovery. So hopefully he comes back quickly and at full strength and does so in a Bears uniform. I am a big proponent of Dak. Dak reminds me of Derek Carr, a guy who you might feel like is not taking enough shots, but I think in the right system, when he can get into that rhythm, I think he can do that. More important than anything, though, he's accurate and on time, and it protects the football. Now, this year, he's had an issue with turning it over, picks and fumbles, but typically, he's a guy that protects the football and makes smart decisions. And before this injury, he hadn't missed a game, so he's been incredibly durable. Hopefully, that maintains to be the case, but listen, if I don't see the Bears being bad enough to get one of those top draft pick quarterbacks, right? And developing one is probably out of the question. But especially if you have to bring in a new regime in here, Dak to the Bears would be something to look out for. Especially if let's just say Dalton kills it down there in Dallas, right? I don't think it's going to happen, but let's say it happens. Dak could be priced out of Dallas's price range. Maybe look. Who knows? Dallas has come out and said that Dak is their future, so I would expect them to get something done. I fully do. But you're telling me there's a chance. And if that's the case, man, I would love to see it. So, switching gears over to the NBA, Ty Lue has been named the head coach of the Los Angeles Clippers, this following the departure of Doc Rivers, who ended up Glenn Rivers. Still not going to be normal. It's like the Sears Tower, right? Oh, it's the Willis Tower. Get the hell out of here. It's the Sears Tower. That will forever be the Sears Tower. Just like Guaranteed Rate Field is Comiskey. Oh, I'm sorry. U.S. Cellular. Oh, no, it's Comiskey. Like, dude, come on now, Glenn Rivers. You don't get to tell me what your name is, sir. Anyway, Ty Lue has been named the head coach of the Los Angeles Clippers, signing for a 5-year deal. And here's the thing that kind of surprises me. He has been brought on because of the way that he is known to push stars. We all remember him kind of calling out LeBron James out there in Cleveland. It's kind of why LeBron wanted him there in Cleveland in the first place. But there's something else that happened in Cleveland that I'm reminded of when I see this happening here. And that's Ty Lue kind of usurping his boss. Lue, and now granted, he's an assistant. That's what happens. The assistants usually slide up and always get that interview. But he's landed the job twice now with the studs, and that just that's a trend. What does that say about Ty Lue? I don't know if bringing Ty Lue on your staff is a wise choice. Ty Lue is about to replace you. If Ty Lue is on your staff, you will not last through your contract, and you will probably end up being replaced by him. That's all I see happening. Ty Lue gets a chance to reverse the picture of Iverson stepping over him and step over his former bosses to get new jobs. That's look, we could talk about what that means for the Clippers and the deal, and is it the right deal, and blah blah blah. Fact of the matter is, this man is out here, did it to David Blatt out in Cleveland, and now to Doc. Damn it, I did it again, to Glenn That ain't gonna never be right to Doc in L.A. Crazy. In other coaching news, Jeff Van Gundy reportedly is interviewing with the Rockets for their head coaching position. This comes as news of General Manager Daryl Morey stepping down. Remember, he's the one who fired off the famous Hong Kong tweet. Jeff Van Gundy coming in is interesting because while I do think that he's a good teacher, I would imagine he's more fit for a veteran roster. And I know we all think that the Rockets can, or we thought the Rockets could do something this year. They seem to be closer to a rebuild than anything. I'm not sure this is going to work. We saw that even at full strength against the Lakers, they're going to get dismantled. There's just nothing you can do with the size. So I'm not sure that, Jeff Van Gundy's the right fit. This might be a situation where they need to go, and we've heard Tillman Fertitta, the owner, talk about wanting to shed some payroll and lower some of the cost. What better way than to not pay a guy named Jeff Van Gundy with the last name of Van Gundy to come and coach your team? Of course, this clearly would signal that they think that they can run him back at least one more time. I don't think so. I think it's closer to done. And as I saw floated out on social media again, you maybe should start taking some trade offers for James Harden. This team is just not built to win. We've seen what it's going to take. You need some size. You need some. Even the death lineup for the Warriors had KD out there at 6'11", 7 feet tall, right? They were rotating bigs in and out of the lineup when JaVale was there, Andrew Bogut was there. You need some size, and the Rockets didn't have that, and it was their downfall ultimately. So, speaking of social media, today I saw a tweet come out that AD plans to opt out. And dude, I'm telling you, when I saw opt out, I lost my shit. And then I had to keep reading, and it said re-sign with the Lakers, and my heart was broken. Now, I knew that was what was going to happen. He was kind of coy the other day and said that he didn't know when they asked him what his future held. Come on, fam. You coming back and trying to win another ring. Let's not act like it's not the case. But I saw the tweet, and I got to admit, I got a little bit giddy. Because I said, oh, shit, he coming out. Nope. Definitely didn't happen. Disappointing, to say the least. But I am still excited about what the Bulls could do going forward. I mentioned it on the last episode. I'm still working on it, though. The article for Pippen Ain't Easy about the three visions of what the Bulls could be, or how the three guys at the top of this, in Arturas Karnisovas, Mark Eversley, and Billy Donovan, what that means and how they're going to kind of come together, and how the vision of the team is going to formulate. Now, granted, a lot of the roster might be set, but they talked about making some big moves, and I spoke on it. I think that means that there's going to be movement of that 4th overall pick for a guy who's equipped now. Who that's going to be, I have no idea, but you package that in auto for something, and who knows what you could pull off. So I'll probably explore that in the article too, but be on the lookout for that one. I know I told you that I was going to, but I got some other stuff, man. I had some football betting and fantasy football articles. Make sure you check those out. I know the waiver wire is already hit, but if you are still looking for some guys and you have a lazy league, maybe you could find one of the people listed on the Week 6 waiver wire stuff on clockersports.com. And then I also did the betting Week 6 primetime moneymakers for Clocker Sports too. Both of those NFL articles, by the way. But yeah, check this one out. Be on the lookout for this one from Pippen Ain't Easy. Just because these are three guys who came from different ways. And I'll tell you the three different ways off the top without getting too much in depth into it. But Karnisovas was the team over talent guy, right? You find the diamonds in the rough, but you mold them, you develop them, you build them into a great unit, some greater than the sum of their parts type of deal. Eversley comes from the top heavy, top tier talent. You're as bad as possible, the extreme, right? Bad as possible to get the best players possible until you hit, and then you try to build around that. And you got Donovan, who coming in had the cream of the crop, had the Maserati, right? And then came in with the Oklahoma City Thunder team, who would gone to the finals. But then this year ended up with the Ford Fiesta and still made the playoffs. So I think those three viewpoints kind of form a great vision, and that's what I want to explore in that article. So be on the lookout for that one. Yeah, man, but that AD tweet, damn. I saw it and I was like, oh. That was very disappointing. Got to be honest. The Heat reportedly are going to go hard, all in for Giannis Antetokounmpo. This according to Shams Charania of The Athletic. They are talking about potentially involving Bam Adebayo. He has a contract extension coming up, and they are not sure whether or not they're going to pay it. And here's the thing, they have built a great culture about supporting their players and development and all that kind of stuff. And so there's a possibility that this even getting out could rock the boat there. But I would imagine that a player like Jimmy Butler would understand, and a lot of the guys there would understand. Now, this is not a knock on Bam. This is just trying to get over that hump. And as much as Bam was an important key in the Heat getting to the finals, I don't necessarily know if they don't have similar. I don't want to call it luck, right? But if they don't have a similar outcome with a rotation of Olynyk and Myers Leonard and probably another big that you get now without having the money, without having Adebayo there. So we talked about it, and it keeps coming up. Heat to go hard for Giannis. I still don't know what else they can put with that to make it work, but that's the key point that they're throwing in there is Bam. I would imagine Tyler Hero has to go too, unfortunately, but he would go home, Milwaukee guy. I don't know. That would be hard though. Jimmy and Giannis, that's two hard-working dudes, and they could scrounge up some shooters and some killers. We know Pat and those guys know how to make that work. So, oof, that's rough. That'd be a whipping to have to look out for. And then the Warriors reportedly are interested in Dwight Howard when free agency starts. That's interesting too, because just you think of them wanting somebody who could shoot and put up shots, but like I just said, even the Warriors who perfected or popularized the death lineup understand the value of having the big and the defensive presence in the paint and that kind of stuff, especially in the playoffs. We saw it pay off for the Lakers this postseason as they won their championship, number 17, to tie the record, and we're going to see it going forward. As much as people want to write off the big man every year in basketball, we just get proof positive over and over again that they're necessary to winning, because that's what it is. There's only so much adaptation, so much evolution you can go before the fundamentals, right? The basics are what ultimately can overcome. That's just how it ends up going. Like football, all the passing in the world works, but if you can't punch the ball into the end zone, right? If you can't get that, if you can't convert a third and short, you're not going anywhere. So it's kind of that simple. Sometimes the simplest Occam's razor, the simplest explanation is often the right one. You need some size in the playoffs when shooting. Legs can be tired, right? You might not be able to shoot as well because you got dead legs. You might just be cold. You need to be able to get into the paint and score buckets, and you need to be able to stop teams from doing just that. So Warriors get it. Why can't the Rockets? That's why I don't know if something has to happen. There has to be changes. We'll see what they are, but there has to be changes. That's going to do it for this episode of Triple Zeros. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at JoshEBuck. Hit up the Facebook page, Clocker Sports, website, clockersports.com, email address, clockersports@gmail.com, and, of course, read the stuff, Last Word on Pro Football, PippinAintEasy.com, American Betting Experts, Clocker Sports, like I said, and to check out those articles for those sites as well. The Bears reckoning tour continuing with Carolina Panthers on Last Word on Pro Football. The Week 6 waiver wire on Clocker Sports, Week 6 money makers on Clocker Sports, and the be on the lookout for the 3 viewpoints article on PippinAintEasy.com. Until the very next time, that's going to do it for me, man. You already know what it is. That's the sound of the horns. I'm gone.